Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. In a modest apartment filled with anime posters and stacks of manga, a woman in her early 30s with glasses, Hana, was fuming. Her face flushed red, a vein throbbed on her temple as her eyes devoured the final page of the latest Boruto manga chapter. What the hell is this? Hana slammed the comic to the floor, ignoring the rising dust cloud or the angry thumps from her neighbor's ceiling. Her eyes, which usually sparkled when talking about her favorite anime, now burned with fury. My prince, Naruto-kun, why is your fate? Why do you always have to suffer? Damn you, Kishimoto, Kodachi, Ikamoto, are you out of ideas? She paced back and forth in her cramped living room, fists clenched tight. Why does Naruto-kun always have to be the one sacrificed? Hasn't he suffered enough? He deserves happiness by now. Her voice trembled, half frustration, half heartbreak. If only I were there, Hana muttered, eyes fixed on the giant poster of Uzumaki Naruto smiling cheerfully on her bedroom wall. I'd protect you, Naruto-kun. I wouldn't let anyone hurt you again. Suddenly, a deep and wise voice echoed in her mind, as if from the depths of time. Are you truly certain of those words, child? Hana jumped. Who's there? She looked around, startled, but her apartment was completely empty. Her heart raced. Was she really that stressed? Was she starting to hallucinate? But the anger over Naruto's suffering still blazed inside her. Without thinking, she shouted back, as if daring the unseen entity. Of course I'm sure. I'd do anything for him. As soon as those words left her lips, her consciousness began to fade. Her head spun, vision blurred, and darkness swallowed her whole. When she slowly opened her eyes, heavy like boulders, the sight that greeted her made her freeze in disbelief. A splitting headache hit her, accompanied by a flood of foreign memories spanning thousands of years filled with rage, loneliness, and overwhelming power. Where am I? She groaned. She tried to move her hands, but instead felt massive claws. She looked down, and horror crept across her face. Fiery orange-red fur covered the colossal body she now inhabited. 9 enormous tails swayed lazily behind her, radiating unimaginable power and grandeur. Her eyes, now reptilian, slitted, and glowing crimson, pierced the gloom. Wait a second, her thoughts scrambled. Orange fur, 9 tails, this overflowing chakra. Her surroundings were bizarre, too. She was in a room, encircled by massive iron bars forming an intricate seal. No. It can't be, she whispered, her voice now deep and thunderous, no longer her gentle, human tone. This seal, am I? Inside Uzumaki Naruto. A chilling realization struck her. I became Kurama, the 9-tailed fox. Terrified and confused, her mind reeled. She distinctly remembered being Hana, a regular office worker, a hardcore anime fan who spent most of her paycheck on Naruto merchandise. How could she suddenly be thrown into the shinobi world, and worse, become the most feared and hated beast? No, this has to be a nightmare. Hana, or should she now call herself Kurama, tried to deny it. But Kurama's memories, of hatred for humans, the battle with Hashirama, being sealed over and over, flooded her with searing clarity. Why me? She sobbed internally. I never dreamed of becoming a world ruler or a superhero. I just wanted a normal life. Open a little toy shop, sell limited edition figures, marry a kind man, have cute kids, and greet him home with warm hugs every day. Why is fate so cruel? Realizing she now lived in a blood-stained shinobi world, where death lurked at every turn, made her tail shiver with dread. Thankfully, a hopeful thought sparked. I'm a Biju now. I don't need to fight on the front lines. I just need to be, like, a giant power bank, Right. But then, another horrifying detail stabbed her mind. That voice earlier. Are you sure? Was that Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the sage of six paths? Her eyes widened in panic. Damn it. So this was what he meant by protect Naruto. By literally becoming part of him. A worse realization followed. As a woman, she had certain dreams and expectations. She glanced downward, to where certain features should be. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No. Her scream of despair echoed through the sealed chamber, thankfully not heard by young Naruto outside. Her soul crumbled. Her feminine identity, gone. She wasn't even male. She was a genderless beast. Tears the size of human fists welled up in her enormous eyes. My dreams of having a cute baby, crushed, she whimpered. And even if Biju did have genders, who the heck would date a mountain-sized fox? But amidst the despair, a spark of determination flared. She slapped her furry cheek. Pull it together, Hana. This is the Naruto world. With ninjutsu, senjutsu, and crazy stuff like time travel and moon gods. There has to be a way. Hope returned. Her goal became clear. Help Naruto grow stronger. A stronger Naruto meant she'd be safer too. It was a mutually beneficial partnership. All right, new Kurama. Let's make a plan, she told herself with newfound optimism. Step 1. Naruto must become a Chunin. There's no way my prince, the future 7th Hokage, should stay a genin forever under my watch. Suddenly, she felt a massive surge of chakra from outside. She focused her awareness. Naruto was boiling with rage. Before him lay Uchiha Sasuke, lifeless and pierced with Senbon needles, victim of Haku. Sasuke. Naruto screamed, his eyes burning with pain and fury. This is it, Kurama thought. He's desperate. He needs my power. Without hesitation, and perhaps a bit too much enthusiasm, Kurama channeled a portion of chakra into Naruto. But it was too much. Ruah-arrr. Naruto roared, cloaked in red chakra, a single tail lashing behind him. His eyes turned red, pupils slitted, just like Kurama's. Oops. Maybe I overdid it, Kurama thought, panicking a little. Too much chakra. I didn't mean to make him a miniature version of me. Fortunately, despite the dramatic boost, the plot stayed mostly intact. Haku, realizing Zabuza was in danger, took Kakashi's Reikiri and died in his place. Gato arrived with his thugs, only to be slaughtered by a vengeful Zabuza before the swordsman succumbed beside Haku. And when Naruto realized Sasuke was still alive, just unconscious, relief washed over him. The red chakra faded, the tail vanished, and the boy collapsed in exhaustion. Inside the seal, Kurama sighed in relief. Phew. Crisis averted. But I need to be more careful next time. Controlling this much chakra isn't easy. She looked at Naruto's sleeping form and smiled faintly. Rest well, Naruto-kun. Our adventure is only just beginning. And this time, you won't be alone. The return of Team 7 to Konoha was met with endless busyness. The hustle and bustle of the village left them with no time to breathe after their life or death mission in the land of waves. Alright, Team 7. Kakashi began in his usual cheerful tone as they gathered at their usual meeting bridge. The mission in Nami no Kuni was tough, but you've all proven that you're more than just ordinary genin. I'm proud of you. His eye crinkled into a smile behind his mask. Naruto puffed up his chest. Of course, Kakashi-sensei. With me around, any mission's a piece of cake, Dadbao. Sakura elbowed him. Don't get cocky, Naruto. We succeeded because we worked as a team, she said, though the proud smile on her face, especially as she glanced at Sasuke, was undeniable. Sasuke merely grunted, HN, but the faint satisfaction in his eyes couldn't be hidden. Since you've exceeded expectations on that A-rank mission, Kakashi continued, to keep your skills sharp, I've signed us up for a lot of new missions. Naruto's excitement evaporated instantly. Missions? What kind, sensei? Even tougher than Nami, right? Kakashi smiled mysteriously. Missions that will test your patience. And so, Team 7's days were filled with a relentless string of D-rank missions. Every morning, they were back to chasing Tora, again, the hyperactive and infamous cat of the daimyo's wife. Grr. Stupid cat. If you weren't a client, I'd have turned you into gloves already. Naruto growled as he chased Tora darting across rooftops. Naruto, focus. He's going to escape again. Sakura called, trying to keep her balance on the tiles. Sasuke, quick and agile, finally cornered Tora. By afternoon, they were weeding a farmer's field. Ugh, why are we pulling weeds? Naruto groaned, wiping sweat from his brow. I should be learning new jutsu. This is training too, Naruto, Kakashi replied lazily from beneath a shady tree, flipping through Ika Paradise. Training your patience, and hey, at least you get fresh air. Sometimes, they moved piles of rocks or waded through rivers under the scorching sun to remove debris clogging irrigation streams. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto cried one afternoon, holding up a net full of soggy garbage. Is this really what great ninja do? This feels more like garbage duty. Kakashi glanced up from his book. Ma, Naruto. All work is noble. Besides, he added with a meaningful smile, thanks to your efforts, Sensei finally saved up enough to buy the latest limited edition of Ika Paradise, with the exclusive bonus chapter. Naruto and Sakura sighed in unison, while Sasuke remained quiet, though it was clear even he was growing weary of the repetition. But amid the dull missions, Kakashi made sure to provide encouragement. As a reward for your hard work, he announced one afternoon at a quiet lakeside, we're going to learn something new, advanced chakra control, walking on water. Naruto was the most eager, but also the one who fell in the most. Sakura, with better chakra control, succeeded quickly. Sasuke, as usual, mastered it after just a few attempts. Look, Naruto, I can do it, Sakura beamed proudly, standing gracefully on the water's surface. TCH, I can do it too, Dadbao, Naruto declared, right before falling in with a loud splash. Meanwhile, in the seal cage within Naruto's stomach, Kurama, or rather, Hana, now living inside the Biju, was not wasting time. She was diving deep into the original Kurama's sea of memories, searching for anything useful. Thousands of years, there has to be something in here I can use, Kurama murmured, sifting through ancient recollections, brutal wars during the Warring States era, jutsu she'd never seen in the anime, and the past Jinchuriki before Naruto. Aha! That's it! The transformation jutsu. She had seen glimpses of shinobi who could alter their appearance, including previous Jinchuriki. While her true body remained a massive, terrifying orange fox in the seal, Hana's consciousness could now project a different form within Naruto's mindscape. After many failed attempts, she finally succeeded. In the shallow reflective water at the seal's base, a new figure appeared. All right, at least now I look a bit more human, she muttered, her voice now more feminine but still laced with a beastly rumble. Her chosen form was a stunning woman. Long orange hair flowed down her back, matching her fur. Fox ears poked out from her head, and 9 large, flowing orange tails swayed behind her. She wore a pale blue kimono, loosely draped to reveal her elegant collarbone and the top of her fair, smooth chest. Her glowing red eyes shimmered with intelligence, and a hint of mischief. Only one thing was missing. As she felt around, her expression turned into a sigh. Quote. Well, can't expect miracles overnight. At least I don't look like a total monster anymore. Looking at her reflection, she couldn't help but giggle. Foo, I can't wait to see Naruto-kun's face when he realizes the terrifying fox inside him looks like this. He's going to freak out. That night, after Naruto came home from another garbage duty mission and fell asleep from exhaustion, Kurama decided it was time. Carefully, she pulled Naruto's consciousness into his subconscious, where she now resided. Naruto blinked. Huh, where am I, Dadbao? He looked down at his feet. Wet, cold stone. The atmosphere was dim, illuminated only by a strange inner glow and distant light. He saw a long corridor, like a giant underground tunnel. Strange, I was in bed just now. Curious, he walked down the passage and soon arrived at a vast chamber. Giant metal bars stood before him, an imposing cage. Inside that cage, sat a beautiful woman with fox ears and tails. Naruto tilted his head, confused. She looked familiar, in hair color at least, but also completely foreign. He had never seen anyone like her. Anu. Naruto asked innocently, Auntie, why are you locked in that cage? Were you kidnapped? And, where is this, anyway? I was just sleeping. Kurama, who had spent hours preparing cool, dramatic lines for her grand reveal to her prince, froze. Her elegant smile faded. Every scenario she'd imagined went up in smoke. Only one word echoed in her mind. Auntie. A vein popped on her now human temple. A faint red aura began to rise from her body. Who are you calling Auntie? Huh. You damn brat. She roared, her voice shaking the floor and rippling the water around Naruto. Her beautiful face flushed with fury. Naruto jumped back in panic. Why are you mad, Auntie? I was just asking. Thankfully, or perhaps tragically for Kurama's pride, they were separated by the massive bars. If not, Naruto might have already felt her loving punch. Naruto swallowed hard, his gaze slowly softening into a mixture of confusion and a slight fear at the outburst of the woman before him. Sorry. I didn't mean it like that. It's just. Auntie looks. You look. Naruto scratched the back of his head, which wasn't itchy, feeling awkward. You. Kurama snorted, one eyebrow raised. Am I that old? Her 9 tails twitched restlessly behind her, showing her displeasure. No. I mean, miss. Naruto tried again, growing more nervous. Miss is too formal too. Kurama retorted sharply, though inwardly she was starting to feel a little amused by the boy's innocence. Patience, Hana, patience. He's still a kid. But still, being called Auntie hurts. Then what should I call you, Dadbao? Naruto started to get frustrated. Sis. Or, just call me Big Sis. Kurama cut in quickly, before Naruto could come up with another strange term. Big Sis, well, that's not bad. At least it's not Auntie. Inwardly, a tiny, silly desire to be called Honey, or Hana-chan, flickered, but she quickly dismissed it with a blush. Don't be ridiculous, Hana. That's too embarrassing. I have to maintain my image in front of my prince. I can't look like a fanatical fangirl. Naruto looked relieved. Alright, Big Sis. So, Big Sis, who are you really? He asked hesitantly, his eyes still scrutinizing the fox ears and tails of the beautiful woman before him. Kurama smirked, deciding to play around a little. She adopted a more haughty posture, mimicking the deep, intimidating tone she often heard from anime antagonists. Child, her voice echoed in the room, I am the legendary nine-tailed fox. What do you think? Are you scared of my terrifying appearance? She winked, barely able to hold back her laughter at Naruto's expression. Naruto's mouth fell open, then he shook his head hard. You're lying. You're lying, aren't you, big sis? He yelled loudly. The nine-tailed fox is huge, its eyes glow red, and its fangs are as big as swords. The villagers say it's a really scary monster. It couldn't possibly be as beautiful. It couldn't possibly be like you, big sis. Naruto hurriedly corrected himself, his face turning slightly red. Everyone in the village describes how terrifying the nine-tailed fox is, how could it look like this? HMPH, you foolish kid. Kurama put her hands on her hips, feigning an arrogant look. Your view is so narrow. Do you think a being like me can't change its form at will? Haven't you ever seen it transform into a human in old stories? But no one ever told me that the nine-tailed fox could turn into a human. Naruto was still a bit skeptical, frowning. Grandpa Hokage never said so either. That's because they don't need to know. Kurama replied quickly, her brain working hard to find a plausible reason. Hana continued to fool Naruto, her tone as if explaining a very complicated concept to a child. Naruto's eyes sparkled. Really? That's amazing. That's so cool, Dadbao. His fear began to be replaced by admiration. Then, why are you here, big sis? Inside? My stomach, right. What is this place anyway? Naruto asked with great curiosity, gesturing around him. Kurama put on a sad face, lowering her head slightly. Crocodile tears began to well up in the corners of her eyes. Okay, Hana, time to act. For my prince's sympathy. Sob. She began with a small, feigned sob. It's a very long story, Naruto-kun. Hearing his name called so softly, Naruto immediately fell silent, ready to listen. A long time ago, Kurama began, her voice trembling, I was just a fox, well, maybe not an ordinary fox like you imagine, but I just wanted to live a relaxed life in the forest, playing and sleeping as much as I wanted without anyone bothering me. She looked at Naruto with teary eyes. But one day, she continued, her voice growing more melancholic, a wicked man with very scary eyes, his name was Madara, heard about my great power. Kurama shuddered slightly, as if remembering something terrifying. He captured me, controlled me with those frightening eyes of his, and forced me to fight against the great first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. After that devastating battle, I lost and was sealed. A tear fell, tracing a path down her cheek. Into the first Hokage's wife. From then on, I was treated like a weapon of war, not as a living being with feelings. Years later, I was transferred into someone else's body. Kurama sobbed again. And when you were born, another masked villain appeared, taking advantage of that moment. He forcibly released me, controlled me again with his cunning ways, and made me destroy Konoha. Her voice broke, her crying now appearing more genuine, a mixture of Kurama's original memories and Hana's own empathy. Then, the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, he sacrificed his life to stop me and protect the village. He sealed me again, into you, Naruto-kun, to save everyone. Kurama looked at Naruto with a gaze full of sadness. Naruto stood speechless, his eyes glistening. He had always heard stories about the Kyubi's attack from the villagers' perspective, a monster rampaging without reason. But hearing the story from this beautiful big sis, from the side of the monster, who was apparently also a victim, his heart ached. Seeing the woman before him cry so pitifully made his chest tighten. Big sis. Naruto's voice was faint and trembling. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everyone in the village. I didn't know you. I didn't know you suffered like that too. Tears finally streamed from Naruto's blue eyes. It must have been hard, being alone and misunderstood all this time. He took a step forward, as if wanting to comfort her, but was blocked by the bars. Ah! Look at this warm and pure heart. Kurama screamed internally, almost melting. This is why I love him so much, Naruto-kun. He apologized to me, even though it clearly wasn't his fault. He's so kind. My most perfect Prince Charming. With great effort, Kurama restrained herself from jumping for joy or hugging Naruto, which was impossible due to the bars. She cleared her throat softly, trying to regain her composure. Ahem. Kurama wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Naruto-kun. Her voice sounded more stable now, though still a bit hoarse. This isn't your fault. Not at all. So, you don't need to apologize. Let bygones be bygones. Dot 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 dot. After her tears subsided and Naruto had also stopped sniffling from pity, Hana looked at the boy before her with a softer gaze. A decision had formed in her mind. Naruto-kun, Hana began, her voice now sounding lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. Actually, Kyubi isn't even my real name. Naruto, who was wiping the remaining tears from his cheeks, immediately turned, his eyes wide. Huh, it's not. Then, what's your name, big sis? Hana smiled faintly. That's just a name people gave me because, well, you know, my fox form. My name is Hana. She decided to use her human name. The name, Kurama, felt too masculine. Besides, Naruto doesn't need to know that name. I won't use it anymore. It's too heavy and doesn't suit a beautiful woman like me. Hana thought to herself. Hana, Naruto repeated, looking surprised. Big sis fox. I mean, big sis, you have a human-like name. Who gave it to you? I gave it to myself, Hana replied with a slightly mysterious smile, avoiding a complicated explanation about the Sage of Six Paths or the origin of Kurama's real name. The story of Grandpa Raikudo Sennin was too long and complicated for Naruto's simple mind right now, she thought. Naruto seemed to digest that information for a moment. Then, a sincere, wide smile spread across his face. Hana, Nichan, he said, a little hesitant but full of warmth. Instantly, Hana felt her world stop spinning and fill with blooming cherry blossoms. Hana Nichan, ah, gulp. Her heart pounded, and she quickly wiped the corner of her mouth where drool had almost escaped. Her face felt hot. Oh my god. He called me Nichan. So sweet. My prince is indeed the best. Patience Hana. Patience, maintain your image. Don't look like a fangirl who's lost control. Seeing Hana Nichan suddenly fall silent with flushed cheeks, Naruto felt awkward. He scratched his unitchy cheek, his gaze wandering aimlessly, avoiding the gaze of the beautiful woman before him, which now felt a little different. Hana giggled at Naruto's shy behavior. Now, Naruto-kun, that's enough about me for now. It's your turn, she said, her voice back to normal though her heart was still fluttering. Tell your Hana Nichan, what is Uzumaki Naruto's biggest dream? Hearing that, Naruto's previously blushing face immediately lit up with enthusiasm. His eyes sparkled, and he clenched his fist in front of his chest. I'm going to become Hokage, he exclaimed in a loud voice that echoed throughout his subconscious. A Hokage who surpasses all previous Hokages. And I'll make everyone in the village acknowledge my existence, acknowledge that I, Uzumaki Naruto, am here, Datbeo. Hana listened with a patient and warm smile. There wasn't a hint of doubt or mockery in her eyes, only sincerity. When Naruto finished, Hana nodded slowly. I believe in you, Naruto-kun, she said softly but full of conviction. You can definitely do it. Not just become Hokage, but you'll become the greatest Hokage of all time. Naruto was stunned. This was the first time. The first time someone, other than perhaps himself in his daydreams, had said that with such strong conviction. Iruka-sensei believed he could be a good ninja. Grandpa Third Hokage gave him moral support. But Hana Nichan, this woman looked at him as if that future was already certain, as if she had already seen it with her own eyes. That belief felt so real, so strong, that it made Naruto's eyes well up. Hana, Nichan, he whispered, moved. Hana smiled, then extended her hand through the bars. Transparent red chakra flowed from her fingertips, forming a longer arm, and gently stroked the top of Naruto's blonde head. It felt warm and comforting. All right, Naruto-kun, Hana said with a proud tone, retracting her chakra arm. From now on, your beautiful and strong big sis Hana will train you personally. I'll shape you into a quality ninja, worthy of the title Hokage. Naruto's eyes immediately sparkled with enthusiasm. Really? Hana Nichan, you'll train me? Yosh. I'll study hard. I won't let you down, Datbeo. Good. That's the spirit I like. Hana chuckled. But for now, you need to sleep. Training requires energy and process. Besides, you'll be taking the Chunin exams soon, right? Naruto blinked in confusion. Chunin? What's that? Hana Nichan. Is it a new type of ramen with special toppings? Hana gently facepalmed with a sigh. Of course he doesn't know. Good grief, this kid's basic knowledge is really. No, Naruto-kun. Chunin is a ninja rank, one level above Genin, where you are now. The Chunin exams are important for. Patiently, that night within Naruto's subconscious, Hana began to teach him various basic ninja knowledge that Naruto seemed to have missed. About ranks, the importance of strategy, different types of jutsu, and of course, about the Chunin exams. Naruto listened attentively, occasionally asking innocent questions, until finally, exhaustion overcame him and he fell fast asleep in front of the bars. His form slowly faded and disappeared from Hana's subconscious. Hana looked at the spot where Naruto had been sitting with a gentle smile. From now on, I will take care of you and make sure you shine, my prince, she muttered with determination. The next morning, Naruto woke up in his bed with a strange feeling. He stretched, trying to remember. Last night, I met a beautiful, very strong fox woman, and she said her name was Hana Nichan. Ah, it must have just been a beautiful dream, he thought, yawning. Good morning, Naruto-kun. Sleep well. That melodious voice suddenly sounded clearly in his mind. Naruto instantly jumped out of bed. Hana Nichan, he shrieked in surprise, his eyes wide. So last night wasn't a dream. Of course not, kid, Hana replied with an amused tone in his mind. Now, first task for you. Get up quickly, wash your face, and go to the ninja tool shop. Buy some chakra paper. Chakra paper? What's that for? Naruto was still a little dazed, but he quickly hurried to get ready, not wanting to disappoint his new mentor. You'll find out later. Now, don't ask so many questions, just do it. Your time is precious. Although confused, Naruto obeyed. After arriving at the store and buying chakra paper as instructed by Hana, he returned to his messy apartment. Hold the paper between your index and middle fingers, then channel a little of your chakra into it, Hana commanded from within his mind. Naruto did so, and instantly the paper split neatly in two. Wow! The paper tore in two. What does this mean, Hana-nichan? He exclaimed in amazement. It means your natural chakra affinity is wind, Naruto-kun, Hana explained with a satisfied tone. A sharp element, capable of cutting and piercing, very suitable for your head-on fighting style. If honed properly, this will become an incredible power. Wind. Cool. Dadbao. Coincidentally, Team 7 had no missions that day, so Hana immediately took over Naruto's training schedule. Alright, Naruto-kun, since it's a day off, we'll start basic training to hone your wind affinity. Go to the forest, find lots of fresh leaves, and try to cut them in half using only your chakra. Place the leaf between your clasped palms, focus your chakra there. Naruto was excited, but after hours of trying in the forest, he couldn't cut a single leaf. The leaves only wrinkled slightly or didn't react at all. He started to get frustrated. This is so hard, Hana-nichan. The leaves won't cut, Dadbao. I keep running out of chakra. Don't give up so easily. Hana chided from within his mind, but her tone remained patient. Controlling chakra nature is difficult. Remember when you practiced walking on water? You have to feel the flow of your chakra. Now, imagine your chakra in your hands becoming thinner, sharper like a knife. Let's do this. Use your Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The more of you training simultaneously, the faster you'll get the feel for it, and all the experience and fatigue from the clones will be absorbed by you when they disappear. Your training efficiency will increase drastically. Kage Bunshin. To cut leaves. Naruto tilted his head, confused, but he had already begun to trust Hana-nichan completely. Alright, I'll try. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Poof. 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 In an instant, dozens of Narutos appeared and immediately spread out in the small training area in the forest. Each Naruto took a leaf and began to concentrate fully. Every time a clone ran out of chakra and disappeared in a puff of smoke, the original Naruto would feel a little tired and get a flash of that clone's experience. He would make new clones, try again, and again, and again. The process continued until late afternoon. The original Naruto had fallen sitting several times due to exhaustion from the transfer of experience from his clones. However, he didn't give up. Finally, as the sun began to tilt westward, one of his clones shouted. I did it. I managed to cut it, Dadbao. Instantly, all the other Narutos, including the original Naruto, turned. Sure enough, in that clone's hand, a leaf was perfectly split in two. Soon after, another clone succeeded, then another, and another. In an instant, the group of Narutos in the forest cheered joyfully, jumping up and down to celebrate their small but very significant success. When Naruto finally returned to his now tidier apartment, the rather pleasant aroma of his own cooking welcomed him. After a filling dinner and a warm bath, during which Hana, of course, quickly covered her view in Naruto's mind, though a faint smile and a subtle blush might have been hidden behind the fingers she used to cover her eyes, Naruto re-entered his subconscious. Hana was already waiting for him, sitting gracefully within her seal. Her cheeks were still slightly flushed, recalling the incident in the bathroom earlier. Ahem. Are you done, Naruto-kun? She cleared her throat, trying to sound professional. Alright, let's continue your lesson. Ready, Hana-nichan? Naruto replied enthusiastically. Since you've begun to understand how to manipulate your wind chakra for cutting, today I'll teach you your first real wind jutsu, Hana said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Its name is Futon. Repusho, wind style, Gale Palm. It's a very useful basic jutsu. She stood up. Next, you must watch my hand seals carefully. After that, she began to demonstrate the hand seal movements. The speed of the hand seal formation was very slow, as if every small movement was deliberately slowed down just to allow Naruto to see every step in detail clearly. Naruto watched Hana's hands intently, not daring to be distracted for even a moment, and mimicked her movements with full concentration. After a while, he managed to complete the sequence of hand seals simultaneously with Hana. Good, Naruto-kun. You learn quickly. Hana nodded in satisfaction. She then took a breath, focused her chakra, and thrust her palm forward. Futon. Repusho. A small but concentrated gust of wind shot from her palm, making the water beneath Naruto's feet ripple slightly. Whoa! Naruto's eyes sparkled. Hana then patiently explained the principle of the futon, Repusho jutsu while Naruto was still memorizing and practicing the hand seals. The principle is to condense wind chakra in your hand, or it can also be from your mouth after forming the seals, then release it as a concentrated wave of wind pressure. Its power depends on how much chakra you channel and how well you condense it. After several attempts and with Hana's guidance, Naruto finally succeeded. Futon. Repusho. A very weak gust of wind, almost like a normal puff of air, came out of his palm. I did it, Hana-nichan. Although, it's really small, Naruto said, a little disappointed with the result. That's already very good for a first attempt at an elemental jutsu. Hana encouraged. Remember, Naruto-kun, foundation is the most important thing for a ninja. Those dazzling and powerful jutsu are just additions that come from a solid foundation. For now, rest. You can learn this jutsu slowly in between your missions and physical training. From that moment on, the next day and the days that followed, Naruto's life underwent significant changes. He trained his physique more intensely in the morning before team meetings, even before the sun had fully risen. After missions with Team 7, he would spend his afternoons in the forest learning his wind jutsu under Hana's direction. Not forgetting, Naruto also began to take his nutritional intake seriously. He bought fruits, vegetables, and fresh meat according to Hana's recommendations. After several attempts that ended with a slightly burnt kitchen or dishes with a, well, unique taste, Naruto could finally cook decent meals, some of which were even quite tasty. Although Hana-nichan often nagged him from within his mind to reduce instant ramen and prioritize a balanced diet, Naruto-kun, how many times do I have to tell you, vegetables are important. Your brain needs nutrients, not just noodles and MSG, Naruto never complained. Instead, a warmth spread through his chest every time he heard that nagging. It felt good to have someone who genuinely cared and paid such close attention to him. Naruto's teammates certainly noticed the subtle changes in him. Sakura Haruno was confused because Naruto was no longer as annoying or constantly seeking her attention in silly and noisy ways. He seemed more focused, though still often clumsy. But, Sakura's thoughts were mostly on Sasuke-kun, so she didn't think much further about it. Maybe he finally realized I'll never look his way, Sakura thought occasionally. Uchiha Sasuke, on the other hand, noticed Naruto's development more sharply. There was something different about his rival. His stamina seemed to have increased, his movements were a bit more focused, and, most strangely, Naruto no longer ate only ramen. Though he was very reluctant to admit it, if anyone paid the most attention to the details of Naruto's changes, it was Sasuke. A faint frown often appeared on his forehead when he saw Naruto training alone more diligently than usual. Hitaki Kakashi just thought that Naruto had grown a little more mature since the mission in the Land of Waves. Although still as noisy as usual and often making strange remarks, his annoyance level had somehow decreased a bit. Maybe the near-death experience made him a little wiser, Kakashi thought while reading his favorite book. Finally, after an unknown amount of time had passed with this new routine, one morning they met at the bridge where they usually gathered. They were about to receive a mission as usual from Kakashi when suddenly a ninja hawk flew in the sky and called out. Kakashi looked at the hawk and said, looks like there's a sudden call for the Junin. You three get a sudden day off today. Make good use of it. With that, Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. Seeing that they apparently had a day off, Naruto immediately said, "Yosh. In that case, I'm going home, I have training to do." Without waiting for an answer, he immediately turned and left. Sasuke also intended to do the same, wanting to go home and train by himself immediately. Sakura, seeing an opportunity, mustered her courage. Wait, Sasuke-kun. She called. Since it's a day off, how about we go for a little walk? There's a new tea shop I want to try. Sasuke turned, looking at Sakura with a piercingly cold gaze. A walk, he hissed. Sakura, you're too weak. Even worse than that Dobi now. Don't waste my time with useless things like that. You should use your time to train. After uttering those sharp words, Sasuke simply walked away, leaving a stunned Sakura behind. Naruto, who had walked a few steps ahead, looked back because he felt something was off. He saw Sakura standing alone on the bridge, her head bowed. Sakura-chan, why are you alone? He walked back towards Sakura. Where's Sasuke? Sakura quickly lifted her face, trying to smile though her eyes were a little teary. Naruto. Sasuke-kun, he had urgent business. Naruto, who hadn't heard Sakura and Sasuke's conversation earlier, just nodded innocently. Oh, I see. He scratched his head. Since it's a day off today, how about we find some good food, Sakura-chan? I know a new dango place that just opened, they say it's really good. He invited, trying to dispel the faint aura of sadness he vaguely sensed from Sakura. Sakura was silent for a moment, perhaps still remembering Sasuke's hurtful words and was about to refuse. But after thinking for a moment, Naruto's sincere attention felt a little comforting. Alright, Naruto, why not? The two of them then walked side by side along the village road. As he walked, Naruto suddenly sensed a strange presence coming from behind him. He looked back and saw a rectangular rock with clear edges and corners following them slowly. This rock had a strange shape. Not only was it rectangular, but there were also two small peepholes on top. It looked very odd. Naruto lifted his lips slightly, smirking. In his mind, Hana also giggled. Kids these days, Hana thought. This is definitely no ordinary rock, Naruto thought. Who else could pull off such a silly trick besides those little devils? So, he deliberately shouted loudly, "Whoa! How can there be a square rock with two small holes like that in the middle of the road? So weird." As soon as he finished speaking, loud laughter was heard from behind the rock. Ha ha ha. He's indeed worthy of being my chosen one. He's indeed worthy of being my rival. Immediately after, the strange rock exploded with a poof, creating a cloud of dust and thick smoke. In the midst of the smoke, three small figures were vaguely visible, coughing continuously. Cough, cough, cough. We used too much gunpowder, Konohamaru-kun. One voice complained. Quiet, Udon. This is part of the dramatic effect. Another voice retorted. As the smoke gradually cleared, Naruto and Sakura finally saw the scene clearly. It turned out that the people standing there were three little ninja prospects from Konoha village, Moegi, Udon, and Konohamaru Sarutobi. Currently, they were all covered in dust and dirt, but they still held back their coughs, trying to stand tall, and posed in various postures they considered the coolest. Moegi placed her hands on her hips confidently and said in a high-pitched voice, "Adult Kunoichi charm, Moegi is here." Udon seriously adjusted his slipping glasses and announced loudly, "I'm Udon, the best data analyst." Finally, Konohamaru, with his signature blue scarf, lifted his head high and shouted proudly, "The strongest genius ninja in the village, future Hokage, Konohamaru. The three of us are collectively known as the Konohamaru Detective Squad. Come on, Aniki. Join us on an investigation mission." Seeing their cute and adorable appearance despite the mess, Naruto and Sakura couldn't help but smile at each other, with helpless expressions on their faces. Naruto walked closer, gently touched Konohamaru's head, and said with a smile, "You guys, you're always up to something. Aniki, play with us from now on." Konohamaru immediately surrounded Naruto, tugging at the hem of his jacket and acting coaxingly. Naruto looked uneasy, scratching the back of his unitchy head. Konohamaru, actually He glanced briefly at Sakura. "Well, this is a bit troublesome. I have other things to take care of today. Training with Hana Nichan was far more important than playing." Konohamaru immediately pouted, his lips jutting out a few centimeters. "But Aniki said you'd play ninja games with us when you have free time." "This is free time, core," he whined, unwilling to back down. At that moment, Sakura, standing beside him, folded her arms across her chest and sighed. "HMPH. What's the point of real ninjas playing ninja games? We should all be training our ninjutsu more if we want to get strong," she complained helplessly, though her words were more directed at herself after Sasuke's earlier remark. Suddenly Moegi, her eyes sparkling with curiosity, pointed towards Sakura. "Aniki Naruto, who is this beautiful big sister? Is she a new member of our squad?" Hearing this, Konohamaru scrutinized Sakura from top to bottom, then looked at Naruto, then back at Sakura. A mischievous idea seemed to flash in his clever mind. Konohamaru's heart was moved, and he suddenly realized it, or so he thought. He. Konohamaru grinned mischievously, his eyes twinkling knowingly. "Aniki Naruto is truly someone not to be underestimated. You've got a girlfriend, it seems. That sister, could she be Aniki's, this?" Konohamaru cheekily held up his pinky finger towards Naruto, implying Sakura was Naruto's girlfriend. Udon next to him just nodded in agreement with a serious face. When Sakura saw this, she was initially stunned, not understanding. Then, as the meaning of the pinky finger sank in, her face instantly turned beet red like a boiled crab. What do you mean, you brat?" she snapped, glaring at Konohamaru. She then turned to Naruto with a mixed expression of anger, embarrassment, and something else. Naruto himself felt his face heat up under Sakura's gaze. He scratched his unitchy head, unsure how to respond. Well, Konohamaru, he was about to say shyly, perhaps a little denying but also a little pleased. However, before he could open his mouth further, Hana's gentle voice sounded so clearly in his mind, like the whisper of a demon disguised as an angel. Era, so Naruto-kun has a girlfriend, huh? Fu, why wasn't Oni-chan told before? You two are so sweet, I'm curious how far your relationship has gone. Her tone sounded so sweet, yet Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. Naruto got a very, very bad feeling, though he didn't know exactly what it was. His reflexes worked faster than his brain. And no, of course not, Konohamaru. He denied quickly and firmly, his face panicked. Sakura-chan is my friend. My precious teammate. Don't talk nonsense, Datbeo. She'll get angry, you know. A far cry from his original reaction in the anime, where he might have been shy or even a little pleased with the accusation. Sakura, who had been ready to throw a punch at Naruto if he responded wrongly, let out a sigh of relief unknowingly upon hearing Naruto's quick and firm answer. Thank goodness he denied it. But somehow, there was a slight, strange feeling. Like a small pinch in her heart. No way. I like Sasuke-kun. Don't think such things, Sakura. She quickly pushed that strange thought far away. Konohamaru just shrugged disappointedly. HMPH, Aniki Naruto is boring. No fun. Then, his face brightened again. But come on, Aniki. Just play ninja for a little while. Yeah, we haven't played in so long. Moegi and Udon nodded in agreement. Naruto sighed softly. Ha, alright, just for a little while, okay. Yaaaay. Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon immediately cheered with delight. You guys be the villains, Aniki Naruto, big sis Sakura. Catch us if you can. The three kids immediately ran off at full speed down the village streets, laughing merrily. Naruto turned to Sakura with a resigned expression. Looks like we don't have much choice, he said with a faint smile. Sakura, for some reason, felt a little lighter and smiled faintly too. Well, consider it a warm-up. The two of them then began to chase the three kids at a leisurely pace, letting them run a little way ahead. However, the fun didn't last long. A moment later, Konohamaru, who was running at the front while looking back to tease Naruto, without watching the path ahead, suddenly. Thud. Ouch. Konohamaru yelped in pain. Konohamaru. Moegi and Udon exclaimed in unison, stopping their run. The man with the purple face paint snorted angrily. Kid, that really hurt, you know. Roughly, he reached out and gripped Konohamaru's collar, lifting him easily as if Konohamaru were nothing more than a rag doll. At that moment, Konohamaru was like a pitiful little chick, his legs kicking panically in the air, struggling helplessly. Kankuro, stop it. Don't cause trouble in someone else's village. The blonde-haired woman beside him said in a warning tone. However, Kankuro didn't seem to take his sister's words to heart at all. He was still staring at the struggling Konohamaru in his hand, a cruel smile etched on his face, a dangerous glint flickering in his eyes. Sakura immediately stepped forward, her face pale. We're sorry. This kid didn't mean to. She looked at Kankuro with a guilty expression, then bowed her head deeply to apologize sincerely. Please let him go. However, Kankuro was not moved at all and didn't seem to appreciate Sakura's kindness. He still held Konohamaru tightly and wouldn't let go, his grip even tightening, making Konohamaru cough. HMPH, before those annoying people from your village come here, why don't you let me have a little fun with these brats first? Kankuro put on a fierce expression, looking cruelly at Naruto and Sakura standing before him. Hey, we've all apologized to you sincerely, isn't that enough? Sakura frowned, starting to feel annoyed and a little scared by the threatening aura from the man in front of her. At this moment, a figure shot out like lightning from Sakura's side. It was Naruto. Without a word, Naruto reached out and quickly grabbed Kankuro's wrist that was gripping Konohamaru. Then, with a bit of focused strength, a result of his physical training with Hana, Kankuro felt a strong grip and sudden pain in his wrist, making him reflexively release Konohamaru. Naruto deftly caught Konohamaru before he fell. Damn it! Who are you, brat? Kankuro growled angrily while shaking his aching wrist. How dare you interfere in my business? Are you also a genin from this weak Konoha village? He asked loudly with wide eyes, staring at Naruto, who had suddenly appeared and was now standing protectively in front of Konohamaru. However, Naruto ignored his question and turned, calming the still shocked Konohamaru. Hey, brats, all of you hide behind me, he said in a calm but firm tone. Hearing Naruto's words, Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon rushed to hide behind Naruto and Sakura, looking fearfully at Kankuro. Oh, how annoying. The girl with golden hair beside Kankuro, Tamari, saw this scene and shook her head helplessly. She then turned to the other side, as if ceasing to care about the situation here. I told you not to look for trouble, Kankuro. Just as Kankuro was about to unleash his anger on Naruto again and prepare to fight, a cold voice suddenly came from above. What are you doing in someone else's village? Causing a ruckus. This sudden voice startled everyone present. Then everyone turned towards the source of the voice and saw a figure suddenly appear on the branch of a large tree nearby. It turned out to be Uchiha Sasuke. Currently, Sasuke stood calmly on the tree branch, both hands tucked into his pockets, looking down at the people below with his typical flat expression. HMPH, I'm no longer interested in this brat. Kankuro snorted, glancing disdainfully at Konohamaru. Instead, a stuck-up brat like you is even more annoying. Get out of my way now, or I'll finish you. Kankuro shouted at Sasuke with wide eyes. At the same time, he began to undo the bandages wrapped around the large bundle on his back and gently placed it on the ground near his feet. The bundle was now revealed to be a wooden puppet with a frightening appearance. Seeing this, the blonde girl beside him, Tamari, couldn't help but try to persuade him again with a worried tone. Hey, Kankuro, you're not going to use Karasu here, are you? Don't be impulsive. We could get into big trouble. However, her persuasion seemed to have no effect whatsoever on Kankuro, who was already fired up. At this moment, another voice, extremely cold, colder than Sasuke's, suddenly sounded from an unexpected direction. Kankuro, stop. Hearing that voice, Kankuro, who was initially aggressive and ready to attack, suddenly froze as if struck by a spell. He froze in place. The angry expression on his face was instantly replaced by panic, and a tangible fear appeared in his eyes. Cold sweat began to bead on his temples. Sasuke's heart tightened. That voice, the aura it emitted, sent a chill down his spine. He immediately turned towards the voice, and to his astonishment, he found a boy with brick red hair, thick dark circles around his eyes, and the kanji for love, I carved on his forehead, had silently appeared on the tree branch behind him like a ghost. The boy carried a large gourd on his back and looked down with a terrifyingly blank expression. Seeing the red-haired boy's appearance, Kankuro didn't hesitate at all and immediately and decisively stopped all aggressive movements he was about to launch. His hand that was ready to control Karasu hung limply. When Naruto saw his opponent had stopped, he didn't take advantage of the situation to attack or pursue. Instead, he also chose to remain vigilant but didn't move forward, immediately retracting his battle-ready aura. For a moment, the entire scene turned deathly silent, as if the tense atmosphere earlier was merely an illusion. The red-haired boy, Gaara, leapt down from the tree lightly, landing silently between Kankuro and Tamari. He looked at Kankuro with a cold, disdainful gaze. You're just trash who only brings disgrace to our village. Why do you think we came all this way to Konoha? Gaara's tone was flat, yet filled with a veiled threat. Listen to me first, Gaara. These people, they started the trouble. Before Kankuro could finish his explanation, he was interrupted by Gaara again, this time with a more piercing voice. Silence. Or I'll kill you. I know, Gaara. I'm really sorry. I won't do it again. Kankuro was so terrified that he waved his hands frantically, his body trembling slightly. Tamari beside him could only smile wryly at her brother's behavior. Gaara then gave up on scolding Kankuro further and jumped to the ground, preparing to take Kankuro and Tamari away, but was stopped by Sakura, who bravely took a step forward. Wait! Sakura exclaimed. Judging by your forehead protectors, you are ninjas from Sunagakur, the hidden sand village, right? Gaara, Kankuro, and Tamari turned to her. The land of wind and the land of fire are indeed allies. Sakura continued, her voice trembling slightly, but she tried to be firm. But the treaty prohibits you from entering another country's territory at will without official permission. Tell us your purpose for coming to Konoha. Although she was scared, especially of Gaara's terrifying aura, as a Konoha genin, she felt she had a responsibility to think about the village's safety. Well, the presence of Sasuke and Naruto, who seemed stronger than usual, gave her a little confidence, but Sakura would never admit it. Tamari chuckled at Sakura's question. Huh, is this what they mean by, the darkest place is under the lamp? Don't you know anything? As you said, we are hidden sand genin from the land of wind. We came here to participate in the Chunin selection exams together. Here's the proof. While speaking, Tamari took out a pass from her pocket and showed it to everyone. The doubt on Naruto and Sakura's faces vanished. Chunin exams. Hana Nichan had told him about this. Just as the three members of the Sand Village group turned and were about to leave, suddenly another voice was heard, stopping them again. And this time, the person speaking was actually Sasuke. Sasuke crossed his arms over his chest and said in his typical arrogant tone. Hey, you with the gourd on your back, tell me your name. He stared at Gaara with his sharp eyes, as if wanting to see what lay behind the boy's blank gaze. Hearing this, Gaara slowly stopped, then turned slightly and looked at Sasuke with an extremely cold, emotionless gaze. Then, he answered expressionlessly. Sabaku no Gaara. Just 3 words, but filled with an indifference and detachment that sent shivers down one's spine. He also looked at Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke lifted the corner of his mouth slightly, revealing a thin, proud smile. Alright, I'll remember. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. His tone was firm and strong, displaying great confidence as an Uchiha. As Naruto was about to open his mouth, perhaps to ask if they weren't curious about his name too, or perhaps to chime in after Sasuke, Hana's voice sounded in his mind again, this time with a more serious tone than usual. Naruto-kun, you should be careful of that red-haired boy. Naruto was stunned by Hana's serious tone and didn't get to open his mouth. Careful? Why, Hana Nichan? He asked inwardly. That boy, he's like you, Hana answered briefly. Naruto frowned, his face looking confused. What do you mean, like me? How could I be as cold and emotionless as him, Dadbao? Hana seemed to facepalm inside Naruto's mind. Oh, good grief, I'm not talking about your personality, Naruto-kun. I mean, there's a creature similar to me sealed within his body. But of course, not as strong, as intelligent, or as beautiful as I am. After saying that, Hana seemed to puff out her chest proudly in Naruto's mind, asserting that she was far more superior than the thing inside the red-haired boy. After the genin from Sunagakur had truly left, the atmosphere became a little awkward. Sakura was about to try inviting Sasuke again, perhaps to discuss what had just happened, but Sasuke only said, troublesome, then leapt away, leaving them just like that. Naruto sighed at Sasuke's behavior. He then turned to Konohamaru and his friends, who still looked a little scared. Well, since everything's settled, How about we continue with our original plan? Dango, Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon immediately cheered happily, forgetting the tense incident. Finally, Naruto invited Konohamaru and his friends to follow Naruto and Sakura to the dango shop he had mentioned earlier, while continuing to listen to Hana explain more about Biju and Jinchuriki in his mind. The day's adventure turned out to be far more interesting than he had imagined. The next day, as usual, Team 7 awaited Kakashi-sensei's arrival. The morning sun was already quite high, yet their teacher's figure was still nowhere to be seen. Sakura let out a long sigh and complained in an annoyed tone, "Why is Kakashi-sensei always late? Does he have a hobby of collecting all kinds of lateness in the world?" Naruto only occasionally responded to Sakura's complaints with a mumble, but his mind was currently wandering far away. He was focused on listening to Hana's lengthy explanation about the Chunin exams. Although Naruto was a bit confused about how Hana could know so many details about the Chunin exam process, which he himself had only just heard about, he still listened attentively. Could it be Biju also take the Chunin exams? Naruto immediately shook his head, banishing the absurd thought that had suddenly popped into his mind. Meanwhile, Sasuke, as usual, simply remained silent in typical Uchiha fashion. He leaned against a nearby tree, his eyes closed but seemingly alert. Finally, after a rather long wait, Kakashi's figure appeared among the trees. He approached casually and said in a familiar, innocent tone, sorry, I got lost on the path of life." Sakura and Naruto stared at Kakashi with disbelieving looks. "The same excuse again," Sakura exclaimed in frustration. Kakashi just smiled faintly behind his mask. He walked slowly towards his students and said with a sudden serious tone, all right, stop complaining. Although this decision came rather suddenly, it's precisely because of my strong recommendation that you will participate in the Chunin exams." As he said this, he took out several pieces of paper from under his Jonin vest and handed them to everyone. Hearing the words, Chunin exams, Sakura's eyes widened and she asked in confusion, "Chunin exams? What's that?" Kakashi nodded and explained, "Well, simply put, the Chunin exams are an important test to assess a ninja's strength and abilities. By passing this exam, a great genin can be promoted to Chunin. However, I must state beforehand that my recommendation is not mandatory. It's up to you to decide whether to participate or not. If anyone wants to challenge themselves and take this exam, please sign this form. Remember, gather in classroom 301 of the academy at 3 p.m. 5 days from now." When Naruto heard this, he immediately jumped for joy and shouted, "Wow, Chunin exams! How could I miss such an exciting event? I have to participate. I'll prove to everyone that I can be a great ninja." After that, with burning enthusiasm, he snatched the application form from Kakashi's hand and signed his name in a few hurried strokes. Seeing Naruto make a firm decision, Sasuke, who was standing beside him, slightly lifted the corner of his mouth, revealing a thin, confident smile. Then, with an elegant and unhesitating movement, he immediately took a pen and neatly wrote his name on the application form. Seeing Naruto and Sasuke make firm decisions, Sakura couldn't help but feel a little worried. She mumbled to herself, "The Chunin exams sound difficult. Can I do it? What if I fail and just embarrass Team 7? However, when she saw the determined look in Naruto's and Sasuke's eyes, an unyielding spirit suddenly welled up in her heart. So, although there were still some worries in her heart, Sakura finally gritted her teeth, strengthening her resolve to take the exam, and earnestly signed her name on the registration form. I I will also take this exam, she said, her voice slightly trembling but full of determination. After they dispersed, Naruto was about to return to his quiet home and wanted to listen to further instructions from Hana about the Chunin exams. However, before he could take a step away, Hana suddenly asked for something strange. Naruto-kun, could you stop by a smoking supplies shop for a moment? I want you to buy me a smoking pipe and tobacco, Hana requested in a slightly sheepish tone. Naruto frowned. A smoking pipe and tobacco? What for? Hana-nichan. He asked, confused. To give a gift to the third Hokage, Hana replied with a reason that sounded fabricated. Naruto was even more confused. Why did he have to give such a strange gift to Grandpa Hokage? But he already trusted what Hana said without further questioning. Before giving it to the Sandaime, Hana asked Naruto to enter his subconscious for a moment. Naruto complied without asking. He entered his subconscious and did as Hana asked. Hana just needed Naruto to bring the items into his subconscious, and the items would follow Naruto. After that, whatever happened to the real items in the outside world was up to them. Naruto himself didn't understand how the process worked, but he trusted Hana. Naruto finally realized that Hana-nichan's goal wasn't really to give a gift to the Sandaime. She just wanted to use that excuse to get a pipe and tobacco. But Naruto didn't consider it a problem. As long as Hana-nichan was happy, he would do anything. As an office worker in her previous life, Hana often smoked to relieve her stress. And she had greatly missed that calming sensation of nicotine. Hana apologized flirtatiously to Naruto in his mind. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. I know I'm troubling you, Hana said in a regretful yet slightly teasing tone. Naruto just replied casually, it's okay, Hana-nichan. I'll do anything as long as Hana-nichan is happy, Dadbao. Naruto's innocent answer made Hana blush shyly in his subconscious, but she quickly composed herself and smiled happily. That evening, after finishing additional physical training and eating a dinner menu approved by Hana, Naruto could finally lie down on his bed and immediately focus on entering his subconscious. He couldn't wait to continue his lesson about the Chunin exams. The scene within the seal was still the same, a spacious room with damp walls and giant bars in the center. However, the figure of Hana-nichan sitting cross-legged behind those bars felt somehow different tonight. She still wore an elegant light blue kimono, which was slightly open at the shoulders, revealing her collarbones and the upper part of her smooth, flawless white chest. Thin smoke curled from a long smoking pipe tucked between her slender fingers, adding an impression of maturity and. Naruto swallowed hard. His face suddenly felt hot. He immediately shook his head vigorously, trying to banish the impolite thoughts that had suddenly crossed his mind. What am I thinking? Focus. Naruto, focus. Hana, who could of course sense the turmoil in the mind of the boy who was entering puberty, just chuckled softly. Smoke from her lips formed small circles before disappearing. Era, Naruto-kun. Why is your face so red like that? Is there something wrong with my appearance tonight? She teased, her eyes narrowing with a knowing smile. She deliberately leaned her shoulder forward slightly, causing the kimono to slip a bit more, revealing more of her white skin. No. Nothing's wrong, Hana-nichan. Not at all. Naruto stammered, his gaze immediately darting to the pool of water beneath his feet. Damn, why was he acting so awkwardly? Foo, really? Hana giggled again, enjoying Naruto's panicked expression. You know, Naruto-kun, looking at a beautiful woman isn't a sin. Especially if that woman is as beautiful as I am. Naruto felt his face grow even hotter. He could feel Hana's amused gaze piercing him. Ha Hana-nichan, can we just start the lesson? He asked in a low voice, hoping the topic of conversation would change immediately. Seeing Naruto looking like he couldn't take it anymore and was about to explode, Hana finally stopped her teasing. She sighed softly, smoke curling out again. All right, my poor prince. She adjusted her sitting position, her kimono slightly more closed, though her captivating aura didn't diminish. Let's continue our discussion about the Chunin exams. Naruto sighed in relief. So, that first exam, the written one, its purpose is to gather information, right? Not just answering questions. Naruto asked, trying to recall what Hana had briefly mentioned before. Hana nodded, taking another puff from her pipe. Exactly, Naruto-kun. Many are fooled into thinking it's just an ordinary written test. In reality, its main purpose is to test your abilities as genin in secretly gathering information, under pressure, and without getting caught. The ability to cheat, or more precisely, information infiltration and extraction, that's what's being assessed. Cheating. Naruto blinked. So, we're allowed to cheat. Not allowed, but expected, Hana corrected. Of course, if you're caught by the proctors in a foolish way, you'll be immediately disqualified. Be smart. Use all your abilities, whether it's jutsu, cleverness, or covert teamwork. Hana continued, and there's one more important thing. There will be a 10th question, a trap question at the end of the exam. Many think this first exam is only graded based on the answer to that last question, whether you choose to answer or not. But actually, Hana leaned forward slightly, as if sharing a great secret. The examiners have been noting all your behavior, you genin, from the moment you first entered the room until the exam is over. How you behave, how you handle pressure, how you try to get answers, all of that is part of the evaluation. Naruto listened intently, occasionally nodding in understanding. His eyes tried hard to stay on Hana's face or look elsewhere, trying to avoid the temptation to glance at the slightly open part of Hana's kimono that showed off her smooth white skin. It was so hard to concentrate. Then, after the first exam, what's next, Hana-nichan? Naruto asked, trying to divert his own attention. The second exam is usually a survival test and team battle. You'll be released in a dangerous area, like the Forest of Death. Hana explained, her expression now more serious. Each team will be given one scroll, either a heaven scroll or an earth scroll. Your task is to obtain the other matching scroll from another team, meaning, you have to fight, and then bring both scrolls to the central tower within the specified time limit. Fight other teams, to snatch scrolls. Naruto's eyes sparkled. Now this sounded exciting. Correct. This is where your combat skills, team strategy, survival abilities, and decision-making are truly tested. The forest is full of dangers, not just from other genin teams, but also from wild beasts or even natural traps, Hana added. That night, Naruto truly felt like he was getting an intensive lecture. Hana patiently explained all the details about the Chunin exams she knew from her memories of her previous life, not just the exam process from the first stage to the final individual battles, but also various possible strategies, how to plan as a team, how to deal with unexpected situations or accidents during the exam, how to read a map effectively in the Forest of Death, and even tips and tricks for conserving energy and supplies. Remember, Naruto-kun, Hana emphasized, the Chunin exams aren't just about strength. Intelligence, composure, adaptability, and teamwork are just as important, if not more so. You have great potential, but never underestimate your opponent or the situation you're in. Naruto absorbed all that information like a sponge, his brain working hard to remember every detail. His confidence grew, not just because he knew what he would face, but because Hana-nichan believed in and supported him so much. Although occasionally his mind was still distracted by Hana's charm as she sat smoking so elegantly and alluringly. Dot 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 dot. Finally, the time came to submit the Chunin exam registration forms. Naruto was already excited, while Sakura looked a little anxious, and Sasuke, as usual, was calm yet full of anticipation. The three of them walked towards the Ninja Academy, where registration would take place. In the academy corridor, the atmosphere was already bustling. Many genin from various villages, as well as from Konoha itself, had gathered. Suddenly, a commotion was heard from one of the rooms. Naruto, with his ever-curious instincts, immediately headed towards the source of the sound. "Hey, what's going on here, Dadbao?" Naruto exclaimed, seeing a boy in a tight green jumpsuit and thick eyebrows, Rock Lee, who had just been knocked down by two older ninjas guarding a door labeled 301. A girl in Chinese-style clothing, Tenten, was trying to help the thick brows. "Still want to take the Chunin exams with just that much skill? Just go home, kid," sneered one of the door guards. "Snot-nosed brats who still reek of milk. Thank us for being so kind. Please, let us pass," Tenten said, trying to get past them. However, the two guards threw another punch, sending Tenten sprawling as well. "This is too much." Sakura stepped forward, looking annoyed. "Naruto-kun, be careful. There's something strange about those two guards in this room," Hana whispered in Naruto's mind. Naruto frowned slightly, sensing something was amiss. "What did you say?" "Listen carefully," one of the guards said condescendingly, "this is our form of kindness. The Chunin exams are tough. Many ninjas fail and lose their spirit. A Chunin is a team leader, responsible for the lives of their members. Can brats like you handle it? If you're not capable, it's better to back down now. Is there anything wrong with that? Huh? Hitting people and then making excuses." Naruto shouted back, his anger rising. "There's some truth to your words, but we still have to pass," Sasuke said coldly, stepping forward with Naruto and Sakura. "Naruto-kun, this is an illusion," Hana said again. "A simple genjutsu to filter out those who aren't observant. The real room is on the third floor." Naruto smirked. "Get rid of this cheap genjutsu already. We're heading to the third floor," he exclaimed loudly. "Oh, not bad, you noticed," one of the guards smirked, slightly surprised. Sasuke turned to Sakura. "Sakura, how about it? You must have been the first to notice, right? Your analytical skills and understanding of genjutsu are the best in our year." "Ah, thank you, Sasuke-kun." Sakura's face flushed slightly at the praise. She tried to compose herself. "Of course, I noticed it earlier. Because this is the second floor." As soon as Sakura finished speaking, the illusion around them disappeared. The room number 301 changed to 201. "Not bad, but just seeing through it isn't enough," the guard said, then dashed to attack Sasuke. Sasuke immediately prepared to retaliate. Suddenly, a green shadow shot between them. Rock Lee, who had been lying, was now standing and with incredible speed, blocked attacks from both sides. Naruto himself was surprised by Lee's speed. "Hey, this isn't what we agreed on, Lee. You said you wouldn't draw attention." A boy with long hair and Byakugan eyes, Neji Hyuga, walked over with Tenten. But, Rock Lee's face suddenly turned red. He ignored Neji and walked steadfastly towards Sakura. "My name is Rock Lee. You're Sakura, right? Will you be my girlfriend? I will protect you until I die." "No way." Sakura flatly rejected him with a horrified look. Rock Lee immediately looked dejected. Naruto, seeing this, couldn't help but laugh. "Hey, you over there. State your name," Neji asked Sasuke in a superior tone. Naruto immediately got annoyed. Why was everyone always interested in Sasuke? Before asking someone's name, shouldn't you state yours first? Sasuke retorted coldly. You're a rookie, right? How old are you? Neji continued, ignoring Sasuke's remark. I'm under no obligation to answer, Sasuke snapped. Neji then shifted his gaze. Hearing the name Uchiha mentioned, Neji and Rock Lee looked at Sasuke more intensely. Sasuke, feeling it was pointless to engage further, turned and walked away. Sakura immediately followed him. Naruto felt a little neglected. Nothing special. Not noticed, he muttered, his back feeling lonely. Patience, Naruto-kun. Your time to shine will come, Hana comforted. Team 7 then walked towards the actual registration room. The two guards from earlier, after all the genin had left, reverted to their original forms, Azumo and Katetsu, two chunin on duty. So, those are the brats Kakashi and Guy recommended, huh? Said Azumo. Looks like this year's chunin exams will be interesting, Katetsu chimed in. As Team 7 was walking down the corridor towards the real registration room, Rock Lee suddenly appeared and blocked their path. You with the sharpest gaze, wait a moment. Lee exclaimed, pointing at Sasuke. Team 7 stopped. Sasuke turned. What is it? Will you fight me, right now? Lee challenged, looking straight at Sasuke. He then jumped down from the second floor railing to the ground floor where Team 7 was. Fight here? Sasuke was slightly surprised. Yes. My name is Rock Lee. When asking for someone's name, you should state your own first, right? Uchiha Sasuke. So you already knew, Sasuke said flatly. I want to duel with you. With the last descendant of the genius Uchiha clan. I want to know how far my abilities can go against you. And also, Lee turned to Sakura, his eyes sparkling. Sakura-san, I like you. Sakura immediately shuddered in horror and took a few steps back. No way. Your eyebrows are so thick, your hairstyle is weird, and your eyelashes are droopy too. There's nothing I like about you. Fufufu, a resounding rejection, Hana giggled amusedly in Naruto's mind. Sakura-san. Love. Lee winked, as if sending a flying love heart. Sakura became even more frightened. Had enough playing around, Sasuke said impatiently, stepping forward. You're challenging me because of the Uchiha name, right? Let me make it clear, you really don't know anything. Let me show you what this name means. Hearing Sasuke's words, Lee smiled broadly. Of course, I'll gladly wait. Finally, I can fight the top graduate of this year. Guy-sensei, I will definitely prove my strength. The two prepared to fight. Naruto, who had been itching to show his strength and was annoyed that all the attention was always on Sasuke, clenched his fists. Wait a minute, he exclaimed, preparing to jump between Sasuke and Lee. Why does Sasuke get to go first? I want to test this thick brows, strength too. Let me at H. Naruto-kun, stop. Hana's voice sounded firm and sharp in his mind, instantly stopping Naruto's half-completed movement. Naruto was surprised. Huh, why? Hana-ni-chan, I can beat him, Dadbao. He protested inwardly, slightly annoyed that his momentum was cut short. Don't be rash. Hana's tone was serious. Observe your opponent first. That kid is no ordinary genin. His movements are very fast and focused on taijutsu. You saw how he blocked the attacks of those two guards earlier, right? His stance, the concentration of chakra in his feet and hands, he's very well trained. If you attack recklessly with your current fighting style, you'll just waste energy and possibly get hurt. Naruto frowned, trying to suppress his annoyance. He trusted Hana-ni-chan, but his ego as a ninja wanting recognition was a bit bruised. But, no buts, Naruto-kun, Hana cut in. This is a good opportunity for you to learn. Watch how Sasuke fights him. Study his movements, analyze his strengths and weaknesses. Observing other people's fights is also part of training. You'll learn more by observing than by rushing in unprepared and losing ridiculously. Trust me. Naruto sighed softly. Although there was still a bit of resentment because he couldn't act immediately, he knew Hana-nichan was right. So far, Hana's advice had always helped him become stronger. Obediently, though somewhat reluctantly, Naruto lowered his fists and took a step back, giving space for Sasuke and Lee. He wore a pout, but his eyes were now focused on observing his two potential opponents. Why, Dobi? Scared? Sasuke sneered briefly, seeing Naruto suddenly back down. Shut up, Tem. I just want to see how well you can fight him. Naruto retorted sharply, hiding the real reason. Sakura looked at Naruto with surprise. It wasn't like Naruto to back down from a chance to show off. Hana smiled faintly in Naruto's mind. Good boy. Now, open your eyes wide, Naruto-kun. There's a lot you can learn from this fight. With Naruto now an observer, the fight between Sasuke and Lee began. Sasuke immediately dashed to attack. My opponent is an Uchiha, Lee said flatly, ready to meet Sasuke's attack. Why is it always Sasuke, Sasuke, Sasuke? So annoying. Naruto shouted from the sidelines, venting his pent-up frustration by becoming a noisy, impromptu commentator. The fight between Sasuke and Lee was fierce. Lee, as Hana had analyzed, initially used only one hand to parry all of Sasuke's punches and kicks, then with a single, Konoha Reppu, Leaf Gale, a low sweeping kick, Sasuke nearly lost his balance. Naruto, who had been shouting, was now silent, observing more seriously. Sasuke relied on his speed and basic techniques, but Lee was able to match and even dominate with his pure taijutsu. Sasuke. Sakura cried out anxiously when she saw Sasuke starting to be pushed back. Sasuke was shocked. He's only using taijutsu. How can he be this fast? He was forced to activate his Sharingan. With the Sharingan, he could read Lee's movements, but his body still struggled to keep up with Lee's incredible speed. Sasuke was thrown back again. As Lee prepared to launch a finishing blow by unwrapping the bandages on his hands, I will prove with this move that hard work can surpass talent. Suddenly, a pinwheel-shaped shuriken flew out and pinned Lee's bandages to the wall. That's far enough, Lee. A giant ninja turtle suddenly appeared between them. Lee immediately stopped his attack, leapt back, and landed beside the turtle. Sasuke also fell sitting, gasping for breath. He was utterly defeated. Ma master. You saw everything. Lee's voice sounded fearful. A talking turtle. And thick brows calls it master. Naruto muttered in disbelief in his mind. The ninja world is indeed full of surprises, Naruto-kun, Hana replied, also slightly amused. The turtle began to scold Lee. Suddenly, a puff of smoke appeared on top of the turtle's shell. Yosh, you truly don't understand the spirit of youth. A ninja with an appearance very similar to Lee, even thicker eyebrows, the same tight green jumpsuit, and sparkling teeth, appeared in a strange pose. His eyebrows are even thicker. Sakura commented in horror. A truly unique master and disciple pair, Hana thought. Guy sensei. Lee exclaimed respectfully. Lee, you're such an idiot. Might Guy threw a punch at Lee's face, sending him flying. That move is forbidden, Lee. You. Guy looked very sad. Guy sensei. Lee immediately panicked. It's all right. Never mind, Lee. Youth is full of mistakes. Guy cried emotionally, hugging Lee. Sensei. You're so kind. Lee also started crying. In that case, as punishment, run 100 laps around the village facing the sunset. Yes, Sensei. Wait. Sakura interrupted. What about the Chunin exams? The registration deadline is almost up. Oh, right. Guy realized. In that case, the punishment is postponed until after the Chunin exams. Yes, Guy-sensei. Lee. This is the spirit of youth. Yes, Guy-sensei. The two hugged again while crying. Sakura couldn't take it anymore. I'm going to submit my form now. She immediately ran off. Me too. Naruto followed. Sasuke, after staring at the two green figures with a strange look, also walked away. Uchiha Sasuke. Lee called out, stopping Sasuke's steps. I was lying earlier. The strongest in my year might be on my own team. I came to defeat him. And you are one of my targets too. Be prepared. Lee then leapt away. Sasuke clenched his fists tightly. The Uchiha clan isn't that great after all, huh? A complete defeat, Naruto taunted Sasuke. Shut up, Dobi. Next time, I'll definitely beat him. Sasuke retorted fiercely. You saw his hands earlier, right? Naruto said more seriously, remembering Lee's hands covered in training scars. He trains very hard, Naruto-kun. Every day, relentlessly. Harder than you can imagine, Hana added. After a moment of silence, Sasuke smirked faintly. Interesting. These Chunin exams are getting more and more interesting. He then looked at Naruto. You too, don't you dare lose. Of course not. The three of them finally arrived in front of the real room 301. There, Kakashi-sensei was already waiting. Yo, Kakashi greeted. You finally made it. Kakashi-sensei. Why are you here? Naruto asked. Just a little worried about you guys, Kakashi replied with his signature smile. We're fine. We're great ninjas. Maybe only Sasuke needs worrying about, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto provoked Sasuke again, who just snorted indifferently. Ah, Sakura's here too, I see. With this, you can officially register for the Chunin exams, Kakashi said. Huh, what do you mean? Sakura was confused. Actually, this exam must be taken as a team of 3, Kakashi explained. But Kakashi-sensei, you said it was our choice whether to participate or not. So that was a lie? Sakura asked, looking at Kakashi suspiciously. Well, you could say that. If I told you the truth, Sasuke and Naruto would definitely force you to join, right? Kakashi said. But now, the three of you have come here of your own free will. Sakura, Sasuke, Naruto, welcome to the Chunin exams. Kakashi spread his arms. The three looked at each other, then a new determination burned in their eyes. Naruto-kun, this is just the beginning. Show them your true strength, Hana whispered enthusiastically. Yosh, Chunin exams, here I come, Dadbao. Naruto exclaimed. With firm steps, Team 7 opened the door to room 301, ready to face their first challenge. Pushing open the large door of room 301, Team 7 stepped inside. The atmosphere inside the room immediately felt different. Dozens of pairs of genin eyes from various villages stared at them, some with curious gazes, others with undisguised hostility. The air felt heavy and full of pressure. Naruto, as Hana Nichan had told him many times, tried hard to behave well and not be noisy. Remember, Naruto-kun, Hana's voice echoed in his mind moments before they entered, first impressions are important. Don't shout or act silly. Observe your surroundings calmly. These Chunin exams are not a playground. Usually, Naruto would immediately shout to find his classmates from the academy, Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba, Shino, Hinata, and possibly cause a bit of a commotion. The desire for a brief reunion with his academy friends was there, especially after not seeing them in such an atmosphere for a long time. However, he knew now was not the right time. So, he just gave a faint smile and a brief nod to a few familiar faces, then followed Sasuke and Sakura to find a place to await further instructions. Sasuke, as usual, wore a flat, cold expression, observing his surroundings with a sharp gaze. Sakura looked a little tense but tried to appear confident. However, it seemed that even without Naruto, who was usually the center of commotion, a young man with glasses, silver hair, and a Konoha forehead protector still approached the crowd of rookies. He was Kabuto Yakushi. He greeted Sasuke amicably, who was currently being pestered by Ino trying to get his attention, while Sakura glared back annoyed, and also interacted with Shikamaru's group, Kiba, and the others. Yo, you're the new batch, right? Kabuto greeted with a friendly smile. These Chunin exams are tough, you know. This is already my 7th time taking them. He then pulled out a stack of ninja info cards. If you need information about other participants, I have the data here. Naruto observed Kabuto from a distance. He said this is his 7th exam. Naruto thought. Hana Nichan said, people who retake exams too many times might be genuinely incapable, or have other motives. Naruto decided to keep his distance and just observe. Everything proceeded as Hana knew from the anime, until finally, a man with a face full of scars and an intimidating gaze entered the room, followed by several Chunin. His presence instantly silenced the entire room, which had been somewhat noisy. He was Morino Ibiki, the proctor for the first stage. After a brief, suffocating pause, Morino Ibiki continued in his deep voice. All right, the exam will now officially begin. Candidates, please submit your registration forms and find your seats according to the number I give you, then sit down. As he spoke, he gestured to his assistant beside him to start distributing number plates and collecting the forms. One by one, the genin came forward, submitted their forms, and received their seat numbers. Naruto got his number and looked for his seat. Coincidentally, he got a seat right next to Hinata Hyuga, who immediately blushed shyly and looked down when Naruto sat beside her. Yo, Hinata. Naruto greeted briefly with a small smile, trying to stay calm as Hana had advised. Hinata could only mumble a greeting in reply with a soft voice. After all the candidates were seated neatly, Morino Ibiki spoke again, his voice echoing in the silent room. Next, I will distribute the exam papers for this written test. He waved his hand, and a thick stack of exam papers began to be distributed by the proctors, falling onto each candidate's desk like snowflakes carrying fate. Sakura glanced worriedly at Naruto. Usually, written exams were Naruto's biggest weakness. She was worried Naruto would get a 0 and hinder their team's chances of passing. But, after seeing Naruto's face, which looked so calm and focused, unlike his usual panicked or complaining self, Sakura was a little surprised. Could it be Naruto had studied, or at least, knew what he had to do? Somehow, seeing Naruto's unusual calmness, Sakura decided to trust her teammate this time. Slowly but surely, the voices of the proctors announcing participant eliminations became more frequent in the tense examination room. The exam papers seemed to be an invisible battlefield. However, the 9 rookie genin from Konoha appeared relatively calm, each using their own unique skills to try and obtain answers. Only Sakura stood out because she was genuinely working through the questions with her own ability. The top student in theory was truly exceptional. Currently, the only sound remaining in the exam room was the scratching of pencils on paper as candidates tried to answer. However, hidden beneath that concentrated silence, various impressive ninjutsu for gathering intelligence were in action. Neji's Byakugan, Sasuke's Sharingan, Kiba's Akamaru, Shino's insects moved silently collecting information. Sound waves from the Otogakur genin were used for communication, and Tenten skillfully used threads and ninja tools to cooperate with Lee to obtain information. Ino, of course, used her Yamanaka clan's signature jutsu to possess someone else's mind, Sakura's. Swish. A kunai shot out accurately, narrowly grazing Naruto's face and embedding itself hard into the exam paper of the ninja sitting behind him. Naruto's heart momentarily pounded. Number 27. You've made 5 mistakes. You're out. A proctor's voice sounded cold and merciless. And this person's 2 teammates, leave the examination room now. Naruto panicked for a moment, imagining his team would fail because of him. However, he quickly calmed down when he heard Hana's gentle voice in his mind. Calm down, Naruto-kun. This is part of the test. Don't let this pressure control you. Remember what we discussed. As Naruto was about to try the strategy Hana had taught him to get answers, he noticed movement beside him. Hinata Hyuga, her face slightly flushed, carefully slid her answer sheet a little towards Naruto, as if by accident. Does this count as an intelligence gathering method too, Hana-nichan? Naruto asked inwardly, slightly surprised and confused by Hinata's action. Hana chuckled amusedly in his mind. Fufufu, you know, Naruto-kun, in the kunoichi class, at the academy, lessons in seduction and utilizing charm are part of the curriculum, you know. Perhaps your handsome face and charisma have unconsciously conquered Miss Hyuga's heart to the point she's willing to give you her answers. Who knows? Hana teased with an amused tone. Naruto's face immediately felt hot. Ha Hana-nichan. Don't say weird things. He tried to ignore Hana's teasing and focus on the situation before him. Although embarrassed, he also felt a little happy. Naruto quickly wrote, "Thanks, Hinata," on the corner of his desk, where only Hinata could see it from the side. Then he added, "Just leave your paper unobstructed, no need to show it too much so the proctors don't notice." He didn't want Hinata to get into trouble because of him. After making sure Hinata read it and nodded faintly, Naruto quickly erased the writing on the desk. Carefully and without being too conspicuous, he began to copy answers from Hinata's paper. His heart was still pounding, not just from fear of getting caught, but also because of Hinata's kindness. 45 minutes later, time passed minute by minute, dragging the tension throughout the examination room to its peak. Finally, Morino Ibiki's heavy voice broke the suffocating silence. Okay, the trash has almost been cleared out. Now, let's announce the 10th question. Ibiki's words were like thunderclaps exploding over the examination room, startling all the genin. First, I will explain it in detail, Ibiki continued without expression, his sharp eyes observing each candidate, as if piercing their souls. This 10th question has some special rules that will make you despair. Everyone's heart stirred, and they pricked up their ears, afraid of missing even a single detail of the proctor's explanation. First rule, Ibiki said, you must choose whether to answer this 10th question or not. Candidates who choose not to answer will immediately be deemed unqualified and receive 0 points. Of course, your 2 teammates will also be eliminated along with you. In that case, the question must be multiple choice. It's too chaotic if there's an elimination rule like that. Whispers and discussions immediately filled the examination room. Quiet, Ibiki barked. There's another, more important rule. If you choose to answer the 10th question, but your answer is wrong, then the person who answered the question will be disqualified from taking the Chunin exams, forever. The room instantly erupted. How can there be such a ridiculous rule? Kiba shouted, not accepting it. Besides, there are some candidates here who have taken this exam many times. That's not fair. Kiba's observation skills were indeed still very sharp. Haha, your luck is truly rotten. This year, I am the proctor, and I make the rules. Ibiki sneered, a cold smile etched on his scarred face. Besides, I'm also giving you an easy way out. Those who aren't confident in their answers, or are afraid of the consequences, can choose not to answer and try again next year. The choice is yours. The tense atmosphere in the examination room reached its climax, almost suffocating. Each genin weighed the incredibly heavy choice. Now, Ibiki's voice echoed again. For those who do not want to answer question number 10, please raise your hands. After your numbers are recorded, you and your team are welcome to leave this place. The atmosphere in the place was truly tense. Many people were pinning their hopes on this last question, but the risk was too great. One by one, hands began to rise hesitantly, followed by disappointed sighs and heavy footsteps leaving the room. Suddenly, Kankuro, the genin from Sunagakur, stood up and roughly pushed the door open, followed by a proctor who walked out with him. Naruto watched the proctor carefully. Strangely, the proctor seemed mindless and moved like a lifeless doll. You're very lucky, kid. All your efforts playing with puppets behind the scenes weren't in vain, it seems. Ibiki looked at Kankuro with a faint, unreadable smile. So that person was a puppet. Naruto suddenly realized. Kankuro was controlling it from outside to get answers. Clever. Naruto, who had gotten a detailed heads up on the format of this 10th question from Hana-ni-chan, appeared relatively calm. He observed his surroundings, seeing the tense and doubtful faces of the other genin. He then looked at Ibiki without a trace of fear. More and more participants raised their hands, choosing to give up rather than risk being disqualified forever. The room began to feel a bit emptier. Seeing the doubt on his friends' faces and those of other participants, Naruto suddenly stood up and slammed his hand hard on the table. Don't underestimate me. I won't run. I will answer the question. I will participate fully in this exam, and I will become Hokage someday. I'm not scared at all, Dadbao. He shouted loudly, his voice breaking the tension. Because of Hana's repeated warnings not to say forbidden words like, even if I can only be a genin for the rest of my life, Naruto consciously didn't say that part. He remembered Hana once said, words have power, Naruto-kun. Never limit yourself with negative statements, even if it's to show courage. In Naruto's subconscious, Hana smiled proudly. Smart boy, that's my prince. If it weren't for these damn iron bars in the way, I would have made sure you got the warmest kiss and hug from me right now, Naruto-kun. Hana whispered in a coddling tone. The blonde boy's previously serious and determined face immediately flushed slightly upon hearing the praise and enticement from Hana-ni-chan. I'll ask one more time. Ibiki stared sharply at Naruto, then at all the remaining participants. This is a choice that will sacrifice your entire future as a ninja. So, if you want to give up, do it now. Ibiki continued to apply psychological pressure. I do what I say, and I never go back on my words. That's my ninja way, Naruto said with a firm expression, trying his best to forget the words and embarrassing images Hana had just whispered. However, the image of himself being hugged and kissed by the beautiful Hana-ni-chan was still hard to erase from his mind, making his cheeks feel even hotter. What an interesting kid. He managed to calm the unease of those around him in an instant. There are still 79 people left. Although there are still many people left, it seems pointless to keep pressing like this, Ibiki thought to himself. He then gave a faint nod to the present proctors. All of you, you've shown extraordinary determination, Ibiki said, his tone slightly softening. In that case, whoever is still here, you all pass the first exam. Ibiki announced the test results with a faint smile. Instantly, everyone in the room was in an uproar. What happened? Why did we all suddenly pass? Then what was the question for the 10th problem? Sakura exclaimed, still in disbelief. Ha ha ha, from the beginning, there was no such thing as a 10th question like that. Ibiki laughed heartily, his laughter echoing. If I may say so, the choice you faced just now was the real 10th question. So the first 9 questions meant nothing at all. Someone protested, unconvinced. Of course, they meant something. Ibiki snapped, his face serious again. The purpose of those first 9 questions was to test each of your intelligence gathering abilities. You had to complete those 9 comprehensive questions by any means necessary. Ibiki explained, in other words, this exam was essentially based on cheating. So, as targets for your cheating, I selected 2 chunin who knew the correct answers to infiltrate and sit among you. Those who cheated in foolish and easily detectable ways were, of course, immediately eliminated. As for the reason, Ibiki slowly removed his headband, revealing a horrifying array of burned scars and gashes on his head. Information, in missions and on the battlefield, is sometimes more valuable than life itself. Information is something you risk your life to obtain. And information obtained from a third party is not necessarily correct information. Remember this well. Holding wrong information in your hands, and simply believing it, will bring a devastating blow to your teammates and even your village. But we still can't accept that last question. Some people still insisted on protesting about the life and death choice. The 10th question, or rather the 10th choice, was the ultimate goal of this first exam. Ibiki explained patiently. When you become a chunin, you will lead a team. Do you think you can always avoid dangerous missions? The answer is, of course, impossible. There will be times when you get missions that cannot be refused, no matter how dangerous they are. Being able to show courage to your teammates in critical moments, and having the ability to break through difficulties together, those are the qualifications a chunin must possess as a unit captain. Ibiki smiled faintly, his gaze no longer intimidating, but full of appreciation. If you are an individual who doesn't even dare to risk your own life for a possibility, and only pins hope on an uncertain future without trying, a coward with a wavering heart and weak will, I don't think such a person is qualified to be a chunin. All of you here, Ibiki continued, have successfully faced the difficulties you might encounter in the future. You have successfully passed this entrance exam. With this, the first exam is declared over. I wish you all the best in the next exam. Yosha. Naruto leapt for joy, pumping his fist in the air. We did it, Dadbao. Hey, it's still too early to celebrate now. Suddenly a black cloth ball burst in through a broken window, startling everyone. Ibiki deftly dodged. The cloth ball unfurled on the wall, revealing a banner. It read, "The proctor for the second exam, Mitarashi Anko, is here. I'm the second exam proctor, Mitarashi Anko." A female ninja in tight brown fishnet attire and an athletic, curvaceous body appeared in a flamboyant style in front of the banner. Her aura felt wild and unpredictable. All right, kids. No time to relax. Let's go straight to the second exam location. Everyone, follow me. Anko exclaimed with great enthusiasm, as if eager to start the party immediately. Take a look at the atmosphere first, Anko, Ibiki reminded expressionlessly from behind the announcement board still stuck to the wall, mocking Anko's overly enthusiastic behavior. Anko looked at Ibiki slightly embarrassed, then cleared her throat. Ahem. 79 people, Ibiki, a lot of teams passed. You were too lenient on the first exam this year, Anko said, dissatisfied, as she observed the remaining genin. There are many great ninjas this year, Anko, Ibiki replied briefly. HMPH. In that case, for the second exam, I'll make sure the participants are reduced to less than half. Anko became enthusiastic again, a wide grin etched on her face. Quote,